Hello, gals, blokes, and all other folks. My name is Mortius. This is Jon Matteson, and we are here for the first ever episode of a brand new series. Jon, how are you doing today?
Feeling good, feeling fine, drinking my caffeinated tea. So I'm just happy to be here, happy to be on your podcast. I'm a big fan of your reaction videos, and I was so excited that you wanted to do an interview. I'm very, very excited.
I'm so excited for it too. What's your tea of choice today before we get into the episode?
So usually I like Sri Lankan black tea, but it hits real hard, real fast. It's like a punch in the face. So this is just a Harney & Sons Earl Grey, I think.
Cool.
Yeah,
well,
big tea drinker over here.
Those of you I'm sure know, I am sponsored by the Gilded Tiefling, and so I am drinking the Wizard's Tower Rooibos right now, which is absolutely incredible. And if you use the code Mortius, yeah, go ahead. Yes, their name is the Gilded Tiefling.
Did you say the Gilded Tiefling?
F-L-I-N-G. Isn't that incredible?
I know what I'm getting for my birthday. That sounds great. Oh my god.
Are you familiar with Epic the Musical?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like tangentially. The way that Gilded Tiefling kind of really entered the public eye, especially around my community, is with a collaboration with Epic the Musical and some of their actors. And so they have a Hermes Holy Moly. You mentioned you were drinking an Earl Grey. Their Hermes Holy Moly is a Huckleberry Vanilla Earl Grey. Honest to God,
beautiful.
Probably my second favorite black tea of all time. And I'm not just saying that because they pay me.
I'm a huge D&D fan, and big, so I know you have this whole interview structured, but I want to talk about D&D at some point. I want to go over time for
just wait, because Jon specifically asked me to leave the gimmick up for this episode, and what a fantastic transition, because welcome to episode 1 of I Turned This Actor into a D&D Character. I swear to God, that's the gimmick, Jon.
Incredible.
So, this interview is going to be formatted around the concept of sort of porting you over into a character sheet, talking about where you think your strengths and weaknesses fall, where some unique things might fall into within that, stereotypical various things like that. And as soon as we connected on Discord and I saw that the only shared servers we had were mine and the Pathfinder RPG, I was like, oh, he's gonna be a perfect episode 1.
Oh my god. That's so great.
I'm so glad.
Perfect.
Yes, it's going to be fantastic. I am really looking forward to hopping into it. Do you have any questions or big things to share before we get started?
I have a ton of big things to share, but I don't want to. But I could save it for the end because I want to leave it to you.
Fair enough. Let's hop into it. Obviously, starting at the very top of the sheet, we have our strength score. Now, you are probably already well familiar, but just in case everyone else isn't, in D&D, a 10 is a baseline. That is going to be a +0, no bonus or minus to these stats. As you get higher or lower, technically it's a range of 0 to 20, but 0 is like you're completely immobile and 20 is your superhuman. So typically a character is going to have that range from like 7, maybe 6 at the minimum, to like 16 if they're like a gym rat. You know what I mean? So where do you feel like you would rate your own strength?
So while I was living in Chicago, I did a cruise ship with the Second City, which is an improv theater in Chicago. I did a couple cruise ship contracts with them. Before I went on that contract, I would say I was maybe a 12 strength. But there's really not a lot to do on a Second City cruise ship contract, because you do some of the contracts, you do really one or like you do 3 shows a week, and then some, or I don't even want to say week, 3 shows an itinerary, and then you have 4 or 5 or 6 days where you're doing nothing except for write, eat, sleep, wake up, go to an island, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I would say after the contract, I was like a 15, maybe, or a 16. But I don't say that lightly. So maybe I was more probably a 15.
Okay. I think that's a
myself
super
at.
fair place to be. And this is exactly why I wanted to go for this format, because I knew these questions would lead down weird, interesting roads like that. This is exactly what because like, how would we have ended up talking about you working out on a cruise in a normal interview format? You know what I mean? But like, I love this for exactly that reason. So, starting off strong with a strength of 15, how do we feel about our dexterity?
Low. Low dexterity. I would say that dexterity has improved a lot. It's gone sort of up and down as I've evolved as a performer. I would say maybe it started high, then it went down in Chicago.
Okay.
Because of all of the pizza and meat. But since then, I would say my dexterity right now is maybe I would say it's honestly a 13.
Okay.
I'm trying to do a lot more cardio because cardio is really, really good for expanding the lungs, for singing, and for screaming and running away from zombies.
Well,
so right now it's like a 13.
Interesting
is that
you
not good?
say that. No, I'm curious actually, because as a DM myself, like holding your breath underwater in a suffocation circumstance is actually a con save. So, if you're thinking about like your endurance and your cardio, I would actually leave that for the next score. Dexterity, I would purely consider your just inherent
12.
sneakiness or anything like that. All right, fair enough. So like for
12,
me, for example,
maybe even an 11. Like,
yeah.
If I'm being really honest, and I don't want to be one of those. If you're new to D&D, if I can just say, if you're new to D&D, and D&D is a wonderful thing to explore as a performer, your faults and weaknesses are a gift, and it is not a game to be won. It is a game where you're exploring your strengths and your weaknesses.
Yes!
Because when you're bad at something, that is truly a gift for you to be vulnerable or feel like shit if you fail at something, or embrace it and be like, yep, well, I'm not sneaky or whatever. So don't try to get 18 in all your categories.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, so that totally makes sense. 11 for Dex. For me, I would put Dex as a decent bit higher, just because I am naturally just kind of always been very good at like stealth. I am always very good at like playing pranks on friends, but in like youth group, I was always the champion of like the hide and seek or hide and seek adjacent games. So like my Dex would definitely be higher, but yeah, I'm not really thinking about like the endurance or things like that. That's going to come from
Good point.
Constitution. So as we get to that one, this one's definitely one of the weirder ones to think about, but for me, I definitely think about things like endurance in that regard, but also think about con saves being against like poison and disease and things like that. Like, are you someone who is really weak to spicy food and has to pop a Tums after every meal, like me? Or how often are you finding yourself getting sick? Like, my con score is my dump score. I've got the immune system and spice tolerance of a Victorian era child. It's bad.
I would say my constitution is pretty good. I would say I still am vulnerable to, like I still probably get a bad cold once every 6 months.
I think everyone in a performance setting is gonna get the performance crud at some point.
I feel like that might have less to do with my immune system and more to do with I'm not releasing toxins after I do things like heavy yoga or heavy massage. And I'm letting those toxins get built up. But I'm very... I've always been very good at being durable, both mentally and physically. I think it comes from being from a military family, and my dad was an intense military guy. My dad was like in the Special Forces and a Green Beret Ranger, and a colonel in the Army. And I was always a runner. That was my only sport of choice before I fell in love with theater. So it was also just how I blew off steam. And I was also always the person in Chicago where I had too much shit in my backpack because maybe I would need 7 books and 7 notebooks
That's
in
so
case I
real.
got trapped on a desert island with a pencil and didn't need any food. So I would say my endurance is really high.
Okay.
So I would probably put my endurance at like a 16 or a 17.
Wow.
Maybe a 16. I'll do 16.
Okay. And of course, keep in mind, especially as we
con.
get to these next couple, as we've got our mental stats, which are a little harder to sort of internalize and answer honestly, do keep in mind the existence of these saving throws. Now, I'm only now realizing that I totally forgot to, or not saving throws, sorry, proficiencies. And I'm realizing now that I totally forgot to share my screen with you, so I'll do that in just a sec. We'll do a little cut. But, like, for example, like when we get down to charisma, it's very easy to be like, ooh, maybe I have like only a 10 charisma, but I do have like a +4 to performance because when I'm off stage, I'm kind of awkward. When I'm on stage, I'm on. So keep in mind that you can kind of customize those weaknesses. We'll go through the proficiencies afterwards, but if you're like, oh, I don't feel that intelligent, but I'm great with history, that's totally an option. So with that being said, what would you put your intelligence as?
Okay, so...
And we can go through the proficiencies afterwards. So for now, just think about, like, the overall feeling of intelligence for you. I know that's a hard question to answer.
It's a hard question to answer honestly and feel good about it because it's like, oh, I'm a 20. And then I've got all the knowledge in the world. But people don't know, not everybody knows this about me, but I am an avid reader, or I was. Especially, like, I was reading Lord of the Rings very early, and like the Three Musketeers, and I love also knowledge about a lot of different types of topics. I think I have a lot of knowledge. I think my wisdom, we'll get there, is extremely low.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm skipping.
We can move around. I got customizable Premiere presets.
But I would say my intelligence is... I would put my intelligence at a 15.
Okay. I think that's pretty fair.
And I would defend that by saying I worked at the Genius Bar of the Apple Store for a very long time. But I wasn't a full genius. I was a junior genius because I didn't open up Mac computers, but I did work on like fixing the internal parts of iPhones, Apple Watches, iPads, although we didn't open up Apple Watches and iPads. But, so I'm not a total genius, but I'm a little bit of a genius. I have a lot of knowledge when it comes to technology and a lot of different, like, bio engineering and science and things like that. I love science and I love technology. And I would say that my downfall, or not downfall, but like something that I try to watch out for as a performer is I'm sometimes a little bit heady, and that's why I like going for runs. I like to make sure, or doing yoga, because I want to make sure that I'm not just in my head, but I'm also in my body. So yeah, I would put my intelligence, I think, pretty high.
Okay, I like that. That's great. So it's really interesting because I feel like just based on like even just like physical appearance, the vibes we give off, like I've already had some people in my comments be like, oh, you could totally be Paul, like you and Jon kind of seem similar, like just in the vibes we give off, but so far polar opposites. Like Dex and Wiz would be my high stats, and most of these other ones, like my con, my int, I would rate a lot lower. So it's so interesting how like we are polar opposites in this like perception of our stats, even though from an exterior perspective, a lot of people say we give off similar vibes, and that's what's so cool about just like being human.
We both look great in a suit. I mean, I think that's probably part of it.
Yeah,
we both
absolutely.
drink tea. We're both big nerds. You would be a fantastic Paul. So I think, yeah, it's like, I mean, when we also know more about our vulnerabilities than people know just by looking at us.
Absolutely.
So that's part of it, I guess.
Well, speaking of vulnerabilities, as you kind of spoiled that this one was going to be a dump stat for you, tell me a little bit about how you view your wisdom.
10.
10, just
maybe
flat 10.
10 or 12 based off of maybe 11 because I like odd numbers for some reason. Because that way, if I get feats, I have room to grow.
There you go.
But so I'll do 11 for wisdom, based on that way I'm,
You've got the
I can
room
actually
to grow.
like move right, and I can I can make words, but based on I would say some of the idiotic things I've done in the past, and choices and how I'm sometimes not putting my own well-being above things like career or work or money or getting burnt out. I would say my wisdom's pretty low. 11.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Last but not least, this one, I love being the last because I feel like it's a really complicated question for performers, because most performers have kind of their on state and their off state. How do you feel like your general charisma is?
I think my charisma's pretty high.
Oh, good.
Because I think I'm pretty good at making people feel heard and listened to, and I like people. I think I like being around people, and I like every type of person from every background. I think that's one of the reasons I was good at the Apple Store, because I was good at de-escalating situations. I think people would be shocked at the types of situations that I had to de-escalate. So I would, but it feels shitty saying this because it feels like, oh, this guy thinks he's real charismatic, but
no, I that's the point of this. I want to know your story.
Yeah, very good. Okay, I guess then I would say 17.
Wow. All right. I love it. No, that's fantastic.
Oh my god, am I going to be a paladin?
I mean, dude, strength, con, charisma, quite possibly. And that there is a reason, because I feel like most performers, especially the ones who don't know D&D, are going to be like, I want to be a bard because I'm a performer and I like music. But I intentionally didn't start the way that you normally would, which is starting with class and things like that, because I kind of wanted to visit that at the end after these questions have been answered and be like, all right,
Really
what
beautiful.
role do you think that we're going to fill? I spent a lot of time thinking about this.
I love this format. You should do this format again.
It's the goal. That is
killer.
the goal. Ideally, this upcoming Monday, I'm going to be recording a little tease for the audience. I'm going to be recording with Luke Holt, who is Epic the Musical Zeus.
Ooh, very cool.
And so I think that's going to be really fun. But before we get on to any other parts of this character sheet, we got one more thing in this sort of stats section, which are, of course, our saving throws and proficiencies. So starting with saving throws, obviously a lot of these are going to be based on just like your general awareness, these stats that you've gotten so far. But for saving throws, that's things like, if like intelligence saving throw, I feel like it's someone tossing a trivia question at you. So like for me, in a weird way, I feel like my intelligence would be low, but I would actually toss a saving throw into it, because even though I don't have a lot of book smarts in general, I am kind of good about just being witty and firing back trivia and things like that. So what two categories do you feel like, if something takes you by surprise, if you have to like dodge, or you get a bite of something that's really gross, like preventing that gag reflex for a con save, what's like your strong suit for if something takes you by surprise?
I would say a con saving throw.
Okay.
I would get one of those because I have a surprising amount of endurance, and I could take a lot of hits pretty easily. Everyone was really concerned during Nerdy Prudes Must Die when they saw my...
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh. So there is a pratfall in there that
fun.
Everyone is like, oh my god, this guy's unprofessional and didn't hurt his knees. But I promise everything was acted out and I didn't hurt myself. But I think I can take more hits than maybe other people.
Okay.
And I think that's both physically and mentally, because my dad was never around. And then for Other saving throw, I would say, oh man. Let me think. It wouldn't be intelligence. I would say my other saving throw would probably be strength.
Okay.
I think I would have a good strength
and con. You totally are going to be a paladin.
Yeah, I know. I know.
You're laying yourself up for it, but I love it. All right, well, those are all of our... oh, wait, never mind. Duh. We got to do our proficiencies as well. So... within these kind of subcategories, got things like athletics, stealth, history, medicine. Obviously, some things might not apply so much, like arcana, but you also might have some interesting answer of like, oh, I'm actually more witchy than you think, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. In general, for people who are less familiar, I'm kind of going to default to like what I feel like is the average across classes. Some get more, some get less, but I'm going to give people 4. However,
4.
If you feel as you are more familiar with the system, if you want to toss more or less in there, you are more than welcome to. Just know that kind of the podcast default that I normally would throw to a less familiar guest is going to be 4 proficiencies.
4 is generous.
Okay.
So, especially for a paladin, I would say persuasion.
Okay.
Would be up there. I'm good at, like I said, I'm good at de-escalating situations.
There are many ways.
Making people feel heard.
You don't get that joke, but the audience will.
Wink. And then I also would put, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be a priest until I was like 13.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I don't agree with the Catholic Church in a lot of ways. And so I would put religion on there. And again, now I think I might be... I shouldn't have said what I was probably building ahead of time. But I didn't even know I was doing it until
No, you're fine. You're doing great.
I gotta keep my head quiet. And then I would say survival.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Actually.
And I love that
never mind.
Well, I was going to have
mind,
cool
not that
on
one.
That.
Oh. Well, it's because you have high wisdom. But I would say perception.
Okay.
Because I am pretty good at perception, even though I have low wisdom. And then performance. Those
cool.
Would be my 4.
I love that. Now, I am curious, because, like, D&D doesn't really have, like, a lore system that, like, Pathfinder or a lot of other TTRPGs would, where you'd be able to be, like, lore Catholicism. So, how do you feel like, with that religion proficiency... do you feel like that would be kind of up to yours and DM's discretion to really only apply with Catholicism? Or do you feel like since you have left that faith a little bit more, or at least agreed with it less, I shouldn't put words in your mouth, but no longer identify as much as you used to, do you feel like you have then also looked into many other religions and you feel knowledgeable about religious studies in general, or is it more of like a lore Catholicism, even though that doesn't exist in D&D?
I would say I looked into other religions.
I love that
kind of thing, because I remember having a moment when I was growing up, after I'd given up being a priest, but I was still in school studying different things, where I was like, I hate the idea that one religion is trying to sell you on their religion when it seems like we're all religions are headed towards the same ideals in some ways, while and anyone who's trying to sell you something really hard is probably wants something from you. And I also really hate, maybe I'd be like an Oathbreaker paladin, but like I really hate like the idea of a religion trying to, like, I hate the idea of like tithing, and which is which was Martin Luther's whole thing, but like I hate the idea of a religion coming around and being like, give us your... I had an idea for a screenplay once. It was a heist movie where... We'll start over, sorry. I had an idea for this screenplay once. It was a heist movie where it was a girl who grew up in a mega church, and her family had been put into sort of poverty because of this megachurch, and she was at a self-help group with a lot of people, and she discovers that they're all victims of this megachurch, and they decide to go to the center of this and infiltrate this place and steal this guy's money, and ends with them running away in his jet.
That's incredible. That sounds like the greatest thing. I hope that sees the light of day, even if it's just as a partial concept album or something. That sounds absolutely incredible.
Because I just don't I think faith is such a personal thing, and I hate the idea of someone taking advantage of that for personal gain. So
yes, 100%.
So he would probably be someone who studied a lot of different religions and then fell out of love with religion a little bit.
That's sick. Cool. I love that. Now we kind of get to the weirder section in the middle here. Weapon proficiency. Because everyone has that weird story of, oh yeah, there was a show where I had to learn proper fencing techniques, so give me a rapier. Or I can talk about how my dad and I used to be really into making wooden targets, and I'm actually shockingly good at the physics of axe throwing. So
Whoa.
I would totally give myself those stereotypical +1 hand axes, because I'm really good at feeling the thing and throwing it in a way that the blade ends up at its target. So what is your weird weapon proficiency that you have acquired across a long life of both life and performance?
That's such a great question. It would be weird for me because when I was a kid, I loved the idea of wielding katanas, because I thought they were badass.
Obviously.
They are. And I also loved dragons. I was a huge nerd and fantasy nerd, and I loved the video game Breath of Fire. And there's this video game where the main character can turn into a dragon. He's part dragon or whatever. And he had a katana. But then when I was in Chicago, I really loved the sport of fencing. And fencing is such a cool, intense, passionate, athletic sport. So I think I would probably say, proficiency in 2 unique weapons is not a great way to build a character, but if I'm being honest, it would probably be katanas and rapiers.
I love
It's also not a great weapon for a paladin, but it's the honest truth. So
no, I love it. That's awesome. Hey, you say it's not a great weapon for a paladin, but imagine most of their damage comes from the smite anyway. Imagine divine smite katana. That sounds awesome. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that sounds
maybe
great.
You're right.
And people associate the purpose of finesse weapons is so that you can use them with dex, but finesse weapons are dex optional. So you rarely see people taking advantage of that, but you can absolutely still have a finesse weapon with a strength build. So just imagine walking up with your katana and people are thinking it's going to be the super dexterous, and you just overhand divine smite katana. That sounds awesome. Ain't no problems with that.
Are katanas, can you dual wield them?
I don't remember if they're considered light. That's a good question. I'd have to do a little bit of research on my end for that.
I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe for future episodes I'll have Roll20 up in a tab for quick searches. We're still learning the format. Now, obviously, something like spells is going to get very complex very quick, and so the way that I kind of decided to keep things simple, it's not as fun and interesting, but I think it just kind of makes the most sense. If you have any other ones where you're but I know this spell and would get it, please include it and I'll put it on the sheet. But in general, I just want to pick a cantrip. I want to know if you could just walk around in your day-to-day life, even in real life, would you want just a simple prestidigitation, the ability to change smell and hearing and things like that? Would you want some kind of minor illusion? Would you want Goodberry to make this delicious little thing that serves you, feeds you the whole day? What would your just basic, simple magic be?
What a great question. I think...
And if you need me to pull up a cantrip list, I totally can.
No, I got it. I got some cantrips in my head. Isn't there a death save cantrip?
I think so, yeah. It's like a necromancy one, right?
Yeah, isn't it like...
Let me see if where's my app? I haven't used it in so long because I exclusively DM Pathfinder now, so I had to actually do some research and remind myself the D&D mechanics for this podcast because I only DM Pathfinder these days.
That's so much harder in some ways.
It's insane.
Because there's too many options for players, in my humble opinion.
There's a lot
too
going
many
on
options.
Pathfinder.
Players, improvisers, actors, we need boundaries, I think, around our worlds.
Yes.
I started out learning Pathfinder, and then
Oh.
I went hard into D&D for a very, very long time.
Spare the Dying, I think is what
Spare
you're
the
looking
Dying.
for. I found it.
Is that a cantrip?
It is. Spare the Dying, 1 action necromancy cantrip. You touch a living creature that has 0 hit points. The creature becomes stable.
This is another reason I think I'd be a good paladin, is I think for a long, long time, I just wanted to take care of people before, even now, like I have to make sure my own needs are being met. I think there's a little bit of codependency in me. But I think it would be either Spare the Dying or Light. I like the idea of doing Good Berry, but I think I probably wouldn't have Good Berry.
And Good Berry's a first level spell anyway. Shows how good my research was.
There you go. I was like, Good Berry would be... Absolutely, I'd be interested in feeding people all the time, but probably wouldn't have that. Ooh,
Fair
can
enough.
I add a... Wait, have we gotten to background feats?
Oh, please, 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 please. Let's go ahead. We can jump up there. Absolutely.
Oh, wait, never mind. Is there a... I was trying to think profession... Like, I love to cook for people, so maybe that's something I can... Is that something that I can add as a... Because I know it's not a cooking is not a proficiency.
There is proficiency with Chef's Kit, actually.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to add that.
Let me clarify, actually. The last time I played D&D seriously was in a world with some light homebrew, so there's a chance that little things like cooking kits and things like that, like if you don't think that's vanilla, it might not be, but we can still say it anyway.
But I know it's not an actual proficiency, but I think it is in the same ways they have like thieves' tools, things like that.
Yes, that's what I meant, yes.
Yeah,
and a lot of classes will get like a proficiency in a tool that can give you bonuses to certain checks.
Or back. Yeah. So I think you're right.
Yes, 100%.
I think the actual cooking kit is not homebrew, and someone might be like, actually, you're wrong. But I think it's...
Oh, this comment section will absolutely be filled with actually.
Littered.
I am already so prepared for that. But hey, that's how you get the engagement.
People love to say, "Wow, John really doesn't know his D&D."
So now we get to what is probably the most difficult and introspective section when you're actually building a character, but also for like answering about yourself. We have the section of personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. So, what would you say if you had to pick just like one defining thing, kind of similar to the ones you're reading here? What is like a John Matteson personality trait that kind of just like shines through in everything you do?
So I'm going to try not to be too saccharine with some of these personality traits.
Okay.
Because, again, I think flaws in D&D are actually really, really
well, and we get to flaws later,
interesting.
but...
True. But I think there's 3 personality traits that I think would align with me.
I'm ready.
Like, number 2, I can find common ground between the fiercest enemies. I would probably agree with that. Number 6, I'm tolerant of other faiths. But if I am an Oathbreaker Paladin, that's already implied. And so what I would probably say is number 7, which is sort of interesting because it conflicts with this, like, oh, this person is tolerant of everything. But I think I've become such a food snob in my 30s, and I also hate camping. I hate it now. I go glamping all the way. So I think I think I would be definitely number 7. I enjoy fine food, drink, and high society among my temple's elite.
Rough living great somebody, yeah.
Or I did before I broke, so I probably miss that type of high, really, really good food. It's because my partner will only eat things that taste good, so now I've become an amazing cook. But now I'm a huge food snob now.
That's awesome.
So I would say I'm definitely number 7.
Ideal. So this one gets to personality trait has always been so vague for me. I almost considered omitting that from the podcast and just going ideal, bond, flaw, and maybe I will even for future episodes. This is still a learning process. Let me know in the comments. Give me any feedback. I mean, by the time this goes up, I've already recorded with Luke, but still. As we get to sort of our ideal, this is like the one big thing that kind of strives your moral code more than anything else. Where would you say that lies?
I would probably say number 2. I always try to help those in need, no matter what the personal cost.
I love that. And, being good aligned for a paladin certainly makes sense. I love that. But yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. I feel like mine would probably be 3, just we must help bring about the changes in the world. I'm always told I'm a chaotic good anyway, which I know is so cliche, but it's also just true.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, there'd probably be a little bit of chaos in the good aspect, especially if it's an Oathbreaker paladin, where he's like, oh, fuck the gods, that kind of a feeling.
I love it. Bond. This one's going to be interesting because I feel like Bond is going to be these ones are typically a little bit more specific to a D&D fantasy world. So this is one I feel like you might have to take one and tweak it a little bit. But what is that one thing that you feel just immensely attached to? No matter what, you are I always got to help the animals. I always got to help my family. I always got to help this, that, the other. I'm attached to this physical thing.
I would say number 2, I will someday get revenge on the corrupt temple hierarchy who branded me a heretic. I think this character, if they are interested in taking down the hypocrisy of the church, then it would probably be a little bit of revenge in this story.
Wow.
And a little bit of sort of ruthlessness where one day I want to either expose them or kill them.
And remember, guys, that was unintentional. He doesn't know the show yet. I'll try to fix that, but he doesn't know Epic yet, so that was a fully unintentional but phenomenal reference. Yeah, no, that's incredible and very fitting for this channel that you happen to use the word ruthlessness within that, because that is a very important theme within Epic the Musical.
Which I will watch. I'm just busy right now.
No,
but
totally understandable. Yeah, we'll talk later. Maybe we can do I show John Matteson Epic thing. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. You guys heard it here first. He said yes. He can't back up on it.
Yeah, I would do it.
Can't back up. Can't. Words.
Back
Anyways, back down. Thank you. Jeez. Whew. We're 45 minutes in. We're making good time, but I'm definitely, my brain's on. Flaw. This is going to be a fun one. As we're kind of thinking about something that we feel like holds us back or that makes us have a hard time doing what we want to do. Where would you kind of put that?
I think this would align with wisdom in a lot of ways. I would say once I pick a goal, I become obsessed with it to the detriment of everything else in my life. Currently in my life, I have kind of 4 jobs with STARKID and with prepping for this show and with my day job, and I think I've lately been experiencing real symptoms of burnout, and I think similarly to this character, I would a huge flaw would be burnout, or basically putting everyone and everything else and myself at risk by focusing on whatever that goal is.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good. I feel like a lot of creatives are gonna feel aligned to that. And as you're talking about feeling like real symptoms of burnout, dude, I know I'm a couple years younger than you, but like, I literally had a like ER for a heart thing a week before my 29th birthday. Brother, please take care of yourself. It has really made me reevaluate my work-life balance. It's really made me evaluate a lot of things.
It's hard. It's really, really hard.
And I still don't know exactly what the heart thing was, which is both nice because it means it's none of the three really scary things they're actually able to test for, but the unknown is itself still very scary.
Yeah, that is really scary. It is so, I'm so happy it's not any of the really serious things. My mom has a heart condition. She has an arrhythmia, but she had a ablation, which was successful, thank God. But it was, but yeah, I totally empathize with that because I definitely have a history of that in my family. But burnout is real, and if you are listening to this, please take care of your sleep and your diet and your health.
Yes.
And don't make any decisions late at night. Whether that's like the things you purchase or like life decisions. Like, don't make binge decisions late at night. What it's hard to do. Truly protect your sleep and your sleep patterns. It's like, it's truly burnout. You know, recently burnout has really been a real thing that I just, I never consider because I just keep pushing, because that's what they teach you as like in the military. Is what they try to keep teaching you. I was never in the military, but I was around it. Yeah. Tangentially. So yeah, it's truly, rest is extremely important for your body and your mind and your soul. So
absolutely.
Get some sleep.
Thank you so much for those words with me. Yeah, get some sleep. Absolutely. Take care of yourself. Like,
don't drink caffeine after 2 p.m. And don't drink Celsius. All these fucking Broadway performers out there chugging Celsius, just don't do it. Let adrenaline, like, I'm not on board. Not on board. It's not a fitness drink. It is 4 coffees in a can, guys. That eventually, no matter how old you are, it's going to catch up.
Absolutely.
You're going to hit 35, and you're going to be like, why does everything hurt? It's because you were chugging Celsius, 4 Celsius every day while you're doing a show. Well, it's like, oh, that's what they do. No, it's not cool. It's not okay. There are other ways to get energy. Have an apple. Have an apple and get 8 hours of sleep. Try that.
And
see
if
you can do a show.
Feel like you need the caffeine, a more healthy and sustainable way to get it is with some delicious teas through the Gilded Tiefling. Follow the link in the description. Use code MORTIUS for $2 off the Wizard's Tower tea. Woo!
Tea is better.
But still before 2 p.m. Don't let my sponsorship undo anything he said. It's if you still want the caffeine and it's a healthy time of day, tea is a great way to do it.
Consume that delicious tea before 2 p.m. Tea before 2 p.m.
Tea before 2. There we go. Yeah. Oh my gosh, if we started any kind of actual series that isn't this gimmicky, it should be called Tea Before 2. I love that. That's so smooth. Oh, if I actually ever start an actual podcast, it's got to be Tea Before 2, where we just record in the morning and talk about different teas. I love that. All right, so then to wrap up the character sheet, now at this point we've kind of already talked about a good bit of it, but as we get to the sort of top of the sheet, which is reverse engineering how you would normally do it, sounds like we landed at Oathbreaker Paladin.
I think so.
Background. This can be any of the D&D backgrounds, of which there are many, or because I think 5e backgrounds can be a little limiting, and that's one of the things we homebrewed most, just kind of how would you describe your background? Would you say that you were so involved in the Catholic Church you would go for acolyte? Would you say performer because that's what you've been doing from a young age? Like, what would your background be?
Oh man, I mean, right? I was dead set on it until I was like 13 about being a priest. And then for a lot of reasons, I think it was like, I wanted to help people. I had never really had the thought of being able to become a performer or an actor was not like front of mind for me or around, because we were just hovering around to different military bases. So I guess I might say I might say acolyte.
Okay,
And
that totally makes
acolyte,
sense.
Acolyte would make sense.
Would fit so well with it.
Yeah.
This is obviously the one that's going to deviate farthest from you as a person, but it's just fun to ask about. Obviously, the answer to race in every episode is going to be human. If it didn't have to be, what would you be drawn to?
Oh man.
If
in the D&D
you
world,
could, exactly, if you could just transport yourself into a D&D world and everything else is still the same. All of your stats and everything still have to be the same. So keep in mind that if you pick elf, you're going to be a weirdly strong and clumsy elf. Like, all of these stats stay the same. You are still you, but just for the fun of looking into a mirror, you get to take on the appearance and vibe of one of the D&D races. What would you feel drawn to?
It's so hard not to metagame when you're picking your race, because you're like, well, I already picked my class. Let me pick the best thing for that class.
No, but you're not getting the stat bonuses. It's just aesthetic, John.
I know.
No metagaming.
I know. I think it would be most interesting for this character to be a half-elf, because I think it would be someone who, again, has multiple reasons to not trust and also have an understanding of both the gods from the human realm and the elf realms. So that's probably what I would say.
Man, these future episodes are going to have big shoes to fill. What a great episode. You were a phenomenal first guest.
I love D&D.
Finally, last but not least, alignment. Not necessarily this character on his big quest against the gods, but you in real life. Where do you feel like you fall?
I would probably say chaotic good, because I have done things
I feel like a lot
in
of
the
us are going to
past
end up
that are
in that realm.
stupid. Right. I have done a lot of stupid things in the past that I think, again, would contribute to my low wisdom, that would align with, I think, chaotic good.
Yeah.
So yeah, chaotic good.
Cool. I love that. Well, then, on screen right now, you can see Jon Matteson as a D&D character in all of its glory. If you ever want to be Jon in a little one-shot or anything, honestly, my goal one day is to, like, have someone say they ran a one-shot and everyone just picked someone from the series. So it was just like playing Jon, playing Luke Holt, playing Peter Barber, playing Tegan Early, and just like everyone picks one of those. That would be like the perfect future. So if you want to be an Oathbreaker Paladin with the vibes and personality of our very own Jon Matteson, now you have the ability to. John, tell the audience what you got going on these days.
Wow. Well, I'm doing a musical this summer, opening July 11th at the El Portal Theater in Los Angeles, California, called The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals Reprised.
Gotcha.
Because we are doing it again with a bigger set. El Portal Theater is a really, really huge set, and hopefully much better production elements. It's a exciting thing as a performer, because very, very rarely do you ever get the chance to come back and live in a character again. Similar to D&D, where like actors think like D&D, because you get to explore a character for sometimes years. And I feel extremely lucky and grateful that I get to explore this character again and explore these relationships again, and also try to prep my voice for this show in a different type of way, which I think will be really exciting for me, because I'm now way more prepared to protect and warm up my voice for a musical that was written by an insane person. And
I desperately want Jeff on this podcast at some point, by the way. I'm not saying I'm going to try to leverage my connection with you to make that happen, but also if you happen to be in the room with him and be like, hey, this was fun,
I'm sure
I'll
bring it up.
Woo!
Because he, everything's, especially in this show, there's a lot of high portions, and then also you sing the songs after running around and screaming the whole time. So I'm excited to figure out how to really, really protect and prepare myself for the role, and also to just fall into, even when we were filming the trailer for the show, like we all fell into those characters just like so
I love
well
that.
and easily, and it was really, really exciting. So if you still want to become a part of that and visit the Kickstarter page, please do if you can.
Donate. Kickstarter's so important.
I think we are on track to being the highest funded theater Kickstarter of all time, I think, which would be really exciting. Yeah, and I'm very, very, very excited about that. So,
and there's a chance, honestly, y'all, in addition to going and supporting the Kickstarter, if you want to go there is a chance we could have a little, like, mini Mortius meet and greet. Like, that's only a couple hours from me. I would very much like to go in person. Now, if you are not allowed to answer this, as you told me off camera that you are the Tom Holland of STARKID, I will cut this question out of the thing.
Okay.
But there is some rumors floating around that this revival is not a specific one-to-one revival and is almost like a continuation of things. Do I need to experience the whole Hatchetfield trilogy before I come to this revival?
What a good question. I don't think you will need to experience the whole Hatchetfield trilogy to appreciate the revival at all.
Cool. There's a decent chance I will anyway, but I'm thinking as you're like, yeah, July, and I'm looking and I'm like, ooh, thinking about like my recording schedule. I'm like, I'll probably be through Black Friday. I don't know if I'll be through the last one.
Yeah, I don't. However, I think the aim, and I'm using the word aim here to describe the aim, is to enhance the experience and add elements, possibly if everything aligns and you know, we have the budget for it and we confirm people and production people, but again, everything right now on when we're recording this, which is the whatever day it is that we're recording this,
May 9th.
May 9th, you know, all of that is still being sort of locked in.
Yes.
So I want to make sure I'm not promising anything, but
Totally.
the aim is to enhance the whole experience.
I love
but
that.
But there's not, I don't think there's anything you're going to be like, I don't understand.
Misunderstanding
this
or actively missing out. More like fun
Yeah.
extras for the diehards. I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for joining for a very new and experimental thing. Speaking of new and experimental, thank you, Jon, for taking a chance on this very new series that you didn't even know anything about. I think this was a great pilot episode. I hope you had a blast with it. And
I had a blast.
if you guys want more of it, we are actually going to be hopping over to our Patreon, my Patreon, and doing a quick little Patreon exclusive where we are going to turn Paul from the guy who didn't like musicals into his own D&D character. So that is going to be available over on the Patreon for as little as $3 a month down at that Trinity tier if you want to get a little bit more. But otherwise, please make sure you are supporting the Kickstarter and all of those things, supporting everything STARKID and Jon do. Do you have any final words for the audience today, Mr. Oathbreaker Paladin?
Get plenty of sleep. No caffeine before 2 p.m. Remember when you worry, no caffeine after 2 p.m. Sorry.
Dang it, I was trying not to distract you. I was trying to say it to the audience without distracting you.
Yeah, no caffeine after 2 p.m. Don't stress out too much. Everything can be resolved. You know, worrying really it's a cliche, but it hurts yourself twice.
Yes.
And if you are just getting started in the arts, don't worry so much about the results right away. Just start playing and falling in love with whatever portion of the craft or whatever craft you are working on. Just fall in love with it every day. And I'm stealing that from Jeff Blim, but I think if you're in school, that is super important to do. Just fall in love with it.
Absolutely.
Every
Thank
day.
you so much for those words. Thank you to all of you for sticking around to the end. And as always, gals, blokes, and all other folks, I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.